in the 20s, she invented pockets in clothing. I mean, this woman blows my mind. She set us up to live for the next century with things that we so take for granted now. Hi, everybody. This is Diane Gilman, formerly known as the Queen of Jeans in Tele-Retail, QVC, and HSN, but today the proud host of Fashion Thursdays with Diane. And as a pure fashionista, somebody who was born to design fashion and loves every single bit of it, I would be completely remiss if I wasn't really upset about the House of Chanel, its reinvention, and a runway show shown in a deserted subway station. Yeah, this is not where I think Chanel should be. Clever, maybe. Should fashion be clever and that precious? No, I don't think so. I think when I go through the creativity, the amazing ways sociologically that Chanel Coco actually changed our lives and took us into a modern era and gave us comfort and classicism and minimalism. And then the way Karl Lagerfeld took over the brand in the mid 80s after she had passed away in the 1970s and took it into the era of the supermodels and energy and irony. You're going to say to yourself, really? You think it's that clever? I mean, the whole thing is like people in the fashion industry losing their minds over this. Oh my God, it's so witty. It's done in a dirty, dingy, lightless subway station. Ha ha ha, with $50,000 jackets. No. But even beyond that, Chanel, which has existed now for well over a century, deserves a rebirth, a real rebirth, a real reinterpretation, and a whole new era of wearing all the amazing fashion inventions that Coco Chanel brought us, starting in 1910. We've got a video of the latest runway show. Yes, my friends, this is how low fashion has sunk that people are actually in the industry saying, oh, Chanel, it's so back again, right? Really? Because you opened up a deserted subway station and had them all arrive in their couture wear on a train. Yeah. Let me talk to you guys a little bit because I think that some of you, like I was talking to some 40-year-olds who didn't even know Karl Lagerfeld and had very little idea of Chanel and where those roots came from. And it is such an amazing history to me. But I'm going to foreshorten it for you a little, and we're going to go to Chanel, Miss Coco herself. I don't know. She was one of a kind. And I think when you talk about geniuses, you talk about people who take the ordinary, but in their brain, twist it slightly to the extraordinary. Now, unbelievable. Coco Chanel was born in 1883. Where did she grow up? She grew up outside of Paris in an orphanage. Her parents deserted her. They did not have the money to raise her. What do you do in order to be able to eat in an orphanage? You take up a trade. So as a little girl, she was taught to sew, and that's how the orphanage supported itself. They made clothing, mended clothing, fitted clothing for rich women and men. 1910, she opened her first hat shop, but the real news came in 1918, right before the Roaring Twenties, when Coco Chanel opened up her first couture shop. Now let's think about it. What is the imprint Coco Chanel has left? Not only on the fashion industry, but women and how they live their lives in general. Well, what did Chanel stand for? It stood for comfort. It stood for classic. It stood for minimalism. Colors? Not so much. Basically, black, white, navy, and beige. And that theme as a duo, two-tone, resonated again and again and again. What did she invent? Because I'm going to call her an inventor, not just a designer. Think about when she was raised and what she was working on with her little sewing machine, really forced labor, in that orphanage. She took away the Victorian corset and she gave us knit dressing. She had a couple of sweaters. She put it together into an elongated sweater, and voila, we had the first sweater dress. She invented fashion comfort. You could not imagine how uncomfortable and fussy Victorian dressing with corsets and whalebones was. And look at how she minimalized it all. She took black and took it out of the funeral home and made it the must-have color of the little black dress and going out at night. That was a huge shift in sociological mentality. Took away something else from those Victorian ladies. She took all their jewelry, especially their pearls, and she said, I want to make it affordable to everybody. Do you know Coco Chanel invented costume jewelry? I mean, fucking mind blowing. Wait till we get to the 80s and talk about how that was parlayed. She invented the ballerina flat with a two-tone toe. And then in 1955, she came back from self-imposed fashion exile because she was considered a Nazi agent. Whoops, in World War II. And she invented, okay, ready for this? In 1955, an advanced stage. She was in her, what, 80s? She was definitely in her late 70s. She invented the Chanel suit and the boy bag with the shoulder strap. Yeah, she invented shoulder strap handbags. She invented suiting for women, collarless, cardigan, tweedy, soft, not structured. And Jackie O represented that beautifully all through the 60s, but she did it because she felt she had to through an American designer, Halston, who reinterpreted all of that for her and created all the hats to go with it. Do you know, long before that, in the 20s, she invented pockets in clothing. I mean, this woman blows my mind. She set us up to live for the next century with things that we so take for granted now. But in Victorian times, with all those stays and those corsets and those petticoats and those shapers and everything that went on, women had to carry a little handbag or nothing. There was no such thing as pockets. She also invented named perfume. Yeah, before Chanel, perfumes were just like rose, lilac, lilies. And here was her first Chanel #5 ad. Nobody had ever put their name on a perfume, but she did. The other thing she did that I think was so amazing was she took her initials, C and C, and rather than be a noblewoman or an heiress from the Victorian era and have your coat of arms as your identification, everything about her was creative and so unbelievably lasting and practical too. And the reason why I think I relate to her the most is I was in fashion forever. I made a great living. People knew who I was. My name was up in every department store, nothing like her. But I had my fashion light bulb moment when I turned 60. And honestly, in 1955, having been born in 1883, Coco had her truly endemic, lasting impression, light bulb moment as an old girl, like I was, with the Chanel cardigan suit and the shoulder strap quilted handbag. Yep, we old girls, we still got it. That's one of my major lessons in life. And wow, I so respected her for it. Now, we're going to go into another phase of Chanel. In 1971, Chanel, almost 90, or I believe 90, passed away. It was a multi-million dollar, absolutely international brand. And they just completely dropped the ball. They got totally lost. They had no idea what were they going to do without her? I mean, and yeah, those were big shoes to fill. That was really, really scary. And the brand just sort of tottered along for a while between the Chanel jacket and the quilted handbag. They spawned, those two items spawned so many subgroups of designers who just copied them, added to them, manufactured them. Okay, so we're going 1971, 1975, 1978, 1980. No designer, no designer. And the brand is dying. It needs direction. It needs infusion of energy. Who comes along? 1983, Karl Lagerfeld's reign at Chanel. From 1983 to 2019, when he did his very last show at the Grand Palais in Paris and passed on. And this was also the age of supermodels: Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista. You name it, those girls were in Chanel. Now, I don't want you to think that Karl was just sitting around waiting to do Chanel, because he really and totally was, I think, an interpretive genius. His own brand, Karl Lagerfeld, never did that well. But the brands he took over and reinterpreted, and at one time he was doing Karl Lagerfeld, Chloe, Fendi, Fendi Furs, and then in 1983, Chanel. Oh my God, that man was doing all those runway shows, all those interpretations of huge international brands. Take a look. How strong can you get? You've got the jacket, you've got the gold buttons, you've got the gold braid trim, you've got the fringe, you've got the belts, and let me tell you what. Oh, if she, Coco, invented jewelry that was at its very best costume jewelry, he took it to a maximum that was just, I don't know how many of these chain belts I owned, but it was a lot. And faux pearls and bracelets and giant double C hoop earrings. And oh my God, I couldn't get enough Chanel. And you know, I always said there were two things. If I got them, I could die happy: a Birkin bag and a Chanel jacket. I got the Birkin bag, never got the Chanel jacket, but there is such a resurgence of vintage Chanel, especially from Karl Lagerfeld's oversee, that I'm thinking about it very seriously. Now, they're so small, I'm not sure I'd fit into them, but there must be one out there that's for me. Look at how strong, but how easy, how deconstructed, how modern they look. And the supermodels brought them to life. So here is, honestly, the final show at the Grand Palais, which has a totally domed glass ceiling, so the sunlight, natural light, is pouring in. This was his final show in 2019 for Chanel, and I wouldn't say it was his best, and he was really, really, really on the health decline, but he still arrived, he still did it, and he was an absolute interpretive genius. There is, I think, nobody better. I just felt like every time I saw a show from him, whether it was Chloe or Fendi furs, oh my God, I went out of my mind. The Chanel jackets he did that were fully sequined, like on Linda Evangelista and self fringed, and oh yeah, we're gonna go through a whole bunch of these now. These were on models who were really out there and alive and personality driven, and they brought the clothing to life. And some of this is a little absurd, but as you go through these, you see the whole thing of the two-tone effect. He got into using color a bit, and he really brought on this whole monotonal era. And look what he did with the handbags, even. I mean, that is a handbag. It's one of the quilted bags, but it's taken to a point where he just had that fire lighting him up and really propelling the Chanel brand to be in our consciousness century later. Look what he did with the pearls and the costume jewelry. Yeah, it was exaggerated. No, you weren't going to wear all of it at once, but this man led you into the best of what fashion should be, which is a fever dream about what you could be and how to reinvent you with the reinvention of the Chanel brand. I mean, and you know, when I look at this and I think to myself, I could go through every single one of these that is a jacket and say, I want that. I want that. I want that. I want that. I'd wear that. I'd wear that. Here's what I do with this. It just gives you the best of the energy that great fashion should. Great fashion should be your foundation. It should be understandable, streamlined, and it should make it very easy for you to figure out where this fits into your life. And here was another invention of hers, which was knit dressing. So I see three things here that were purely Coco. Two-tone dressing, white and black, knit dressing, taking a blazer and totally deconstructing it, comfort, and pockets. When you think about her, you really take for granted the fact that we have knit dressing to the max now. The two-tone thing, we've lived with it forever. Pockets, well, of course you have pockets, but realize that a century ago you had none of that. And then here's one of my favorite photos of the Karl Lagerfeld Chanel era, 1983 to 2019. Here's how I wanted to wear Chanel jackets. But trust me, I bought good copies of Chanel jackets, but somehow it was never really the Chanel jacket. I loved it with my DG2 jeans. And that was one of my favorite looks ever. A great blazer, lapelled or cardigan, some form of simple layering top underneath, and a pair of well-worn jeans. And the other people that honestly took advantage of that fashion ethos and look was Dolce & Gabbana. And they did the most outrageous, ripped, jeweled, patched, studded jeans with a Dolce & Gabbana highly sexualized version of the Chanel jacket. And the look was unbeatable. And just look at the supermodel era for Karl, who developed so many of the supermodels, made them who they were, elevated them, understood how to maximize them. It's so electric. Hey, so if you know me, you know I am a big believer that red light is the future of wellness and beauty. Mito red light is my new absolute favorite. It's like giving yourselves a power boost. It's incredible. So red light therapy helps support energy, skin health, and even reduces inflammation, all with the simple power of light. Red light, that is. I use mine every day, and I can feel the difference. If you want to glow from the inside out, check out Mito Red Light because your cells feel energized and you feel unstoppable. Use my code below on mitoredlight.com for a discount and see why red light therapy is lighting the way to better aging. Mito Red Light. Power your cells, power your life. Yeah, here we are back in a dingy, no natural light, deserted for years subway. And people are losing their minds over this in the fashion biz. They're desperate, seriously desperate. You need real, covetable, amazing, one step beyond kind of clothing. And they've gone through one, two, three, four different designers since Karl died in 2019. None of them have stuck. And actually, somebody did a test with me, which was a little bit embarrassing. They showed me a preview of this show and they said, "Whose clothing is this?" I couldn't tell. I had no idea. It could have been almost anybody. But I'll tell you the real truth. I didn't want any of it. Now I'm 80 years old. I would like in my latter years to have a perfect and real Chanel jacket. I don't see one thing here that I would really want or want to buy, including the handbags. Ugh. And really, you're going to pay $2,600 for an I Love New York t-shirt because it's got sequins on the heart? Come on. But if you were looking at this, would you say, "Oh my God, they're doing a Chanel show in a subway station"? But that is what masquerades as fashion creativity today. We are a very tired industry, and we need to be honest with ourselves as fashionistas and wake up and move on because we just keep reliving it and reliving it. And you know what? Us as customers, we don't need you to relive it. We can go to New York City has some of the best vintage shopping weekends on the planet, and we can get the real thing. I do want to say, along with the real thing, in Palais Royal, which is a beautiful garden in Paris, right behind the Louvre, there are two shops that are devoted to nothing but Chanel from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s through the 70s. Oh my God. No trip to Paris for me is a trip that's successful without going to those stores and seeing the real deal. It was the fabrics that really send me over the top. The tweeds, all hand done, and the colors so enriched, and oh my word. And I can't fit into any of them. They're all for skinny, petite Parisian ladies, not chunky American girls like me. But a girl can dream, and I can look, and I have to say, if I really wanted to talk about the best of fashion, I pray that they find somebody with the forward vision and the backward respect to bring Chanel into the 2020s and beyond as a cherished heritage brand, and like Karl Lagerfeld did in the mid 80s, make it punchy and bright and alive and new again and in the moment. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of history and a lot of love for fashion in our Chanel Reinvents Itself Fashion Thursday. Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young to be old.